Okay, recording. Thank you all for being here today. We are running our Vibe Tuesdays event. If you haven't subscribed for that calendar yet, do hit subscribe here. Pick one of the memberships. If you have already donated or if you have already submitted your project, you can apply for these memberships here at any point. I would approve you already, and I'm bringing more workshops and sponsors to being here every week with you by Thursdays. And on this Vibe Tuesday, as we're doing today, in the next week, we should be bringing quality content on the fundamentals of AI and how to use those for building your first products. So let me share the link here in the chat. That's a good one. Imagine I should have a repository for all of those at some point, maybe in GitHub. Let's share the link here in the chat. It's luma, lo.ma/ventureminer. You can also see that in our website, ventureminer.com/academy. Please check out. We do a lot of cool things. I would love to support you. And the context of this session today is all around the Artisan Fund that we started early this month, to fund you, vibe coders, AI builders that are trying to build the first AI startup from ground up. Maybe you don't know how to code, maybe you don't know how to properly build a project or engineer a project, architect a project. This fund is to support you with education, community support, maybe even investor connection. And if you get selected, if you have enough votes, you can even receive some of these funds. This pot is growing about $1,000 per week, trying to grow it even faster with sponsors, with a company to sponsor this fund for giving money to all of you. So this is the context for this call today. And without further ado, I'm going to start the subject, that is mastering Cursor. If you watched the previous lessons, the 101 and then the last lesson on migrating from V0 to Cursor and all, you might have noticed that there is a lot of little details, technical details, or small adjustments and tweaks that you can do, that they have a lot of impact. They have a big sensitivity in the outcome depending on how much you do of that thing in the beginning, in the middle, and the end. I like to say that it's almost like cooking. If you forget to put salt, yeah, maybe the food is not going to be that good, right? But if you put too much salt, it's going to be almost impossible to eat. So those little techniques, these Pareto rules that are going to guide us on how to use those tools, are actually the most impactful. Like 20% of the effort that you do makes an impact of 80% of the things out there. And if you have tried again and again and again generating apps with these tools and didn't get a good outcome, maybe it's just 1, 2, or 3 small tweaks that you need to do to increase a lot on your efficiency. Okay, so in the next 1 hour and a half or so, maybe a little more, we're going to cover some of those techniques, and I'm going to explain why they are important. This is not just like a marketing or tool usage session. I'm going to actually explain what is under the hood, what parts of the AI tooling or infrastructure behind are limiting currently the workflows of building with AI. Not too deep, of course. We want to build, we don't want to become AI engineers, but I'm going to ground you with this knowledge so you know why we're doing these things and how to avoid them in the future. Okay, so let me check in the chat here. Okay, the links are here. Oh, we have more people. Hello, everyone that joined it. So I'm going to start with the obvious. We are going to use Cursor. If you don't have that installed, you can go right now for cursor.com. As I've pointed in previous sessions, this is a free tool. You don't need necessarily to pay for having access to the models that we're going to use today. If you pay them, you might have increased usage, faster models, access to better models, or better usage, but it's not necessary. I've demonstrated that in previous lessons, that you can just change the configurations there in settings and use that tool for free. So yes, it's a free developer tooling with a paid plan on top. I'm using the paid plan, but the flow should be the same even if you use the free plan. Okay. And let me chat with you first before we get to action. Who watched the Vibe Coding 101 here? I guess Sergo, you were there, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Liliana, I don't remember if you were, but they pointed out some key factors that we need to set up, we need to base a project on before proceeding with vibe coding. That would apply for any other tools. Okay, if you want to check that recording later, it's not super necessary to watch the lesson one before watching the second one, but we can add a bit of context. If you watch those sessions later, if you pick that content later, you're going to see that context, having a good guidance for the AI with context and the correct prompting are one of the most impactful factors on having a good effectiveness, accuracy in the generation of these AIs. And today we're going to delve in those 2 points when doing function calling, when adding context, when
Oh,
triggering executions, and all of that. Yes, Armand, I
oh
see
yeah.
that you open your mic. You want to ask a question before we proceed?
Yeah.
Or no? Maybe yes. I can hear you. Oh, remember, people, anything you can just raise your hand like that, and I'll stop the lesson for picking your questions. So let's jump straight out to it. You might have some startup idea yet. If not, you can think on it, submit here on Artisan. Imagine that you would have a template, you have something that you want to code today. And the first thing that I'm going to suggest
Oh, glad.
is starting starting.
Oh, I love
Sorry,
it.
I have an open mic here. Okay, that might be a problem. Let's see. First thing that I would suggest that we would start is using a starter kit. Whenever you ask an AI to suggest some implementation, some tech tooling, they have very outdated information about the world. We covered that in the one-on-one. Like if you ask an AI, who is the current president of the United States, we can test it right now.
Yeah.
We go for ChatGPT and test that. They're going to have very old information, and they don't know how to guide them. Even if we do function calling and web search and all, they don't know how to guide the proper answer. They're not trained with human feedback on how to guide them with the proper helpful answers on using up to date information. So they're going to
There's a juice
suggest
line here.
obsolete toolings. They're going to
There's a
suggest.
juice line right here.
Let me solve this thing with the mic. Sorry about that, people. I might need to do this. Um, if you want to speak, just let me know, okay? Raise your hand. That might solve this. So if we try asking AI some up to date information, what tech stack would you use? What configuration would you use for this project? They would probably hallucinate or not. We're going to do this exercise. So the first suggestion I'm going to do is picking a starter kit. I'm going to suggest this one later. I'm going to explain why. And this is the first suggestion that I would give for today's lesson. Let me send this link for you here in the chat. You can pick any of the starter. I'm going to show how to research those starter link later. And this can save you from a lot of nasty hallucinations. Let me paste this here. Okay, this is going to set up a base for you to use your project. We're going to need to code this. We're going to clone these files, download to our machine, use the terminal. Yes, like we did on last lesson. It gets a little techy. I guess we are past this point now. Unfortunately, a total newcomer cannot properly use all of the power of vibe coding right now. If you go for Replit, Windsurf, Lovable, they try to onboard non-technical people. Yes, but it's not so production ready yet. So we're going to need to use some technical tools for getting that started. And also, I'm going to show a nice point of view on the prompting engineering part of it. Because when we start with AI, the first thing that you see is prompt engineering, right? and then you think that you mastered it. You look for order and other content. Okay, function call is cool, agent is cool, MCP is cool, But after you go for all of that, you come back for prompt engineering. I'm going to mention why is that important. I have an example here with noun research about this old scene. I'm going to mention that when we get that point, because the only way for you to propagate intelligence out of these AIs is by prompting. So it's easy to learn, but hard to master. We're going to cover that today too. Okay, so that might take over an hour and a half or so. If you want to skip to some part of that later in the recording, I should have that laid out. But if you are starting right now, if this is your first project, follow me. That could get you from A to Z very quickly. Okay, and I'm going to start obviously by opening Cursor. I'm going to open this in my machine. I'm using a Linux machine here with Ubuntu. It's going to be one interface for files, insertion, terminal, and all. If you're using other operational systems, Mac, or Windows, or whatever, be aware of those differences of using your terminal, invoking, and all. Here I have Cursor home page. I guess I should have the home page. If not, I just need to close my current project. It's taking a while for loading for some reason. Yes, I have a project open. Let me close this window, close this folder actually. Oh, and it's my secrets file. That's not cool. Why is always a secret file? So first thing that you need to take care when you're vibe coding, make sure that you pay attention to what you're sharing, right? My first error. Okay, now we have Cursor open in a blank page, and I'm going to open a project in a new folder. Okay, I have a folder in my computer that I use for my vibe coding projects, and now Vibe started Polygon, these projects that I'm working with. And I'm going to create a new folder for me to use today. Let me pick my projects folder, vibes, and I'm going to create a new folder. Let's make it my example app. Okay, and let's open this folder. If you go back for the Cursor 101, we're going to say that if we try at this point using Cursor and using the AI for setting up the structure, now Cursor is going to use all the context that it has. We did an example with writing a book, if I recall correctly. Cursor is going to try and do the best that it can, but it's going to suggest some obsolete tech. For example, if I ask something, okay, if this is your first time using Cursor, it would be nice to pick the 101 introduction first, but then I'm going to try and point some directions even if you're a newcomer. When you start Cursor in the recent versions, you should have this chat tab in the right. And I'm going to start by selecting the ask a question. It's going to ask some model. I have been using Gemini 2.5. It's a very good and fast model. But if you don't have access to it, don't worry. You can pick any other that you have access there. And then I can ask some questions. And this is a very good model. But even if I ask this good model with some simple question, like how would you set up a SaaS app for ordering cat food online? Do I have cats? No. Just using this example that I saw today. What tech stack would you use? And then sometimes the AI just suggests a lot of things that it was trained to find helpful, like Jekyll, JavaScript, vanilla JavaScript with HTML, blah, 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 blah. The problem is that sometimes the tech stack is totally not a good choice, not a good viable choice for whatever you want to make. And sometimes you are non-technical, right? Sometimes the AI is like reinventing React in front of your eyes, reinventing some tech stack, rebuilding the wheels, reinventing the wheels, and you don't know. You find it plausible that the AI is doing all of these changes, but it's just crazy running in circles. So let's see what was the answer. So it's suggesting to use Let me see. Oh, a lot of things. React framework, okay. With Tailwind, okay. With Zoo Stand, Redux, why that? Why don't we have better frameworks for that? Okay, some people use that in every respect. And that is using Node.js with Nest.js, okay. That can be good. I like to use this. It is a good call. But for example, a SaaS app, like we asked, there are some React framework, for example, Next.js, that would give us all of the necessary backend functions without using Nest.js. It's not a type, okay? We have Nest.js for backend and Next for frontend that can do backend on serverless functions. It is a mess. I know. This is why Vibe code is so cool, right? This I know because I'm technical. I'm using those two stacks in the past in the factory. Imagine a non-coder, a newcomer, dealing with all of these suggestions, even put in that very plausible way. It is messy. It is suggesting deploying that, hosting that on AWS, and then putting the front end on Vercel and putting the back end in another place. So forget all of that. This is not a good suggestion. Okay, the AI did it the best that it could. The suggestions are very good. It is something that I should say that the model is working very well. Take this out of the way, right? Maybe I should put it somewhere else, I guess. Yeah, it's better like this, I hope. So the model did a good job here, but it's far from perfect. Yes, we could add some context, laying of abstractions to do this, but it's still far from ideal. Okay. Let me see those questions that I have here. Armad, I see you have a question there. I'm sorry, you had an open mic before I had to mute you, but let me solve that right now. Um, okay. Let me go back to our call. It's too small. Okay, I'm going to enlarge that. Sorry about that. Yes, Armad, am I spelling your name correctly? You can unmute yourself now, I guess, right? No? Okay. Well, I guess I can't unmute. Sergo, let me ask, this Zoom level is good for you? Can you read like that?
Yes, I can read it, yes.
Let me
Now
see
I
my
can read.
browser.
Yeah.
This kind of zoom in the browser is good?
Yes, now it's good, Mateus. I can read it now.
Okay. And
Thank
Armand
you.
raised his hand, but I guess he can't unmute. Maybe we can use the chat. Okay, anytime you can raise your hand and use the chat. I'm going to pick the questions here for going quicker. Okay, so enough explanation. This is not good. We already got that conclusion. This is not going to give good suggestions. So what would we do? I would suggest before anything else, let me open my terminal here. Yes, we're going to need a terminal. Do not be afraid with it. Control J or Command J, you open your terminal there in Cursor. Okay. And then you can do commands like cd, change directory, two dots is going to change directory to the folder up. AI can help you with these commands too, okay? You don't need to worry. Let me detach my panel here. Okay, good. You don't need to worry too much when you study all of those commands on the top of your head for now. I know these, but if you copy them on your side, you might be able to follow just like this. Just pick any terminal inside Cursor or in your computer shell, whatever that you have, you might be able to execute the same commands, okay? And I'm going to set up this repository, this Next.js SaaS starter. This is going to come with all of the landing pages as needed, we probably need a landing page if we're building a software as a service. We might want to charge people. Yes, we don't want to work for free. We want this to be charged. We want to have a dashboard. We want to have role-based access control. We want to have some sort of subscription. We want to have some authentication. We want to protect login roles. We want to do local middlewares for servers, actions. We want to do logging. So this would solve most of the problems that most vibe coders have in the in the early stages of developing their own apps, of getting hacked, exposing the private keys, just like I did a while ago. But this would propose you a good starting point. It's not perfect. It still needs some tweaking. It's not going to be usable out of the box for making people to pay for your app, but it's a good starting point. You can vibe code very well on top of this without too much problem, without too many problems. Okay. How to get started with this? Getting started. Basically, at this point, you just need to read those instructions with care. Okay, pay attention line by line. I'm going to clone this SaaS starter. I'm going to enter this, and I'm going to use Node. This is a Node-based tool. I need Node installed in my computer for running that command. Okay, this is better than adding that directly to my project. I can clone this repository with this CLI tool called Git. If you don't have it installed on your machine, you can download that later. You can go for the Git binary distribution and download this command, this script program for running that on your computer. You can enter that folder after you cloned it. This can be your test project, whatever that we were doing before. And here we're going to use a Node package manager to install. It can be npm that comes installed with Node, or pnpm. That is a tool that you can enable with Corpack. And I'm going to do this command install to install the whole project. This is it. We have a working template already. Okay, now I'm in this example app folder. I should have, oops, not this one folder. Example app. I should have used it at another starting point, but I'm going to pick this SaaS starter, which I can rename at any point. I can rename. And or I could just copy the files from my other project too. That would give me a good starting base. Okay, Sergio, you have a question?
Yes, Matteo. So I've actually cloned the repository, downloaded it on my PC. So what else do I have to do now? Just open it?
Open it on your cursor, or you copy the files for your other folder if you prefer.
To copy the SaaS starter into example app?
You have two options. Here, I found it faster just to open the folder in the SaaS starter, but then it's going to be named SaaS starter. You might want to rename it later, or just import the files that you want. Okay. And as you can see, there is a .env example here that you need to configure. And now this is the confidential file that I shouldn't have shared early on, but I guess I'll edit this out in the recording if I have the time. Okay, so this is the starting point. You have enough context for the AI now to guide things on your project. Using cursor, whenever you are in agent mode or any mode with function calling abilities, you can ask for things like, what framework am I using here? And then the AI is going to know how to search for these files, how to analyze these files in the project. Is going to use this as context, and is going to use that for generating. Even if it's a tool or a framework that came after the training of this model, after the cutting period, it still can deduct some patterns. If we use the web search, it can even search the web for that documentation in a much more structured way then you're starting from scratch. Okay. This is the first rule. Everyone that those influencers doing these lists. Oh, this is the top list of things you need to do before vibe coding. The number 4 is going to blow your mind. This kind of engagement bait, The first one is always there, like use a template or using some context for guiding the AI. And this is true. This solves a lot of the hallucination problems for anything that you want to do. So this is using Next.js, is a popular React framework. And then, yes, you're using Next.js with this version, with this React version. And I can ask things like, is this going to take care of front end and back end? If I ask something like that, remember the previous explanation was, the previous suggestion from the AI was to use Nest.js in the backend together with Next.js in the front end, which might be a good combo. But here we have the explanation. No, actually, front end and backend will be handled in both of those will be handled in that same project, Next.js, that can be deployed in a single hosting like Vercel with serverless function, all scalable and auto-scalable, all serverless, which means that you don't need to study anything about AWS, about DevOps, Google Cloud, hosting, databases, or any of that. You can have a single provider that is going to host all of this app for you. Even the database. Yes, you can hire the database directly from Vercel if you want, or plug in with some other serverless provider. So here, people, we have already a big win. We don't need to study anything on DevOps. We can just do some quick integrations, and we have the app deployed for us to use. Kind of what Visio, Lovable, Windsurf, they're trying to do. And in fact, for building landing pages and those initial flows, they are very good. But whenever you want something integrated, some payment being processed, some subscription, some business logic, and blah, 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 they fail. And then you need to come here and code things manually like the ancient civilizations did a few years ago. Okay, so this is the starting point, setting up your template. Okay, is that good for everyone up to that point? Okay, good. I guess I have no way to see the chat here. Maybe I could try another tab. But if you send something in the chat which I missed, please let me know. Like raise your hand and I'll pay attention to that. Okay. Now the second error. And this is not something very discussed. Some people even debate over this yet. Don't go straight to coding. And you might be like that. Oh, what? I'm vibe coding. I want to code my app, right? I want to deliver. I want to charge people. That the only way to do that is coding, right? Yes, but actually, no. For you to properly develop something, you need to go over 3 phases usually. Architecture. And if you don't architect, you're going to architect anyway while you code, which is bad. You need to have like a blueprint, a plan of what you want to do. Then you code, then you implement that thing on code, and then you deploy on the third step. We have that in industries, in engineering, in any proper workflow for decades, if not a century. That would be the PDCA flow: plan, do, control, act. And I know that it sounds like some boring boomer waterfall stuff. Oh, we are going to do 10 days of planning to do one implementation of one line, and then 200 pages of documents for one single change. This is not what I'm speaking about. I'm speaking about some short, clean documentation, sometimes even written by AI, that is going to point the AI what to do and give some roles to them even before they implement your thing. Let me explain why. Have you seen this truth terminal from Nouns? Nouns Research, this Truth Terminal. No, this is another project. Sorry, forget about Truth Terminal. Do not search that online. You might have some brain damage if you do. I'm speaking about the Word Sim. Word Sim from Nouns Research. It is an experiment that they would pick an AI like Cloud or many other AIs, and they would train that AI, they would prompt that AI to generate the whole world, the whole simulation of a universe. I'm going to show how to do that. For example, you can simulate like a tabletop with that, a world sim. This is important because the first time that you try to prompt an AI, you just go speaking normally, it might feel like a conversational flow, right? It might be tweaked for function calling and all, but the AIs right now, they are trained. There are like millions of dollars of investment to train AIs to behave like a human. You have a message, then an answer, a request, and then you follow that instruction. This is not like the natural behavior of those AIs. If you pick GPT-1 and especially GPT-2, you're going to see that whenever you prompt an AI, you have a dump of information depending on the structure that you give it in the prompt, like spitting out the entropy, the chaos of the universe represented in tokens that can be translated to words. And it seems that there is a lot of intelligence there, mixed there. It's like an ocean of intelligence that somehow we can only tap through a little channel, a little pipe of some size, a bigger size or a smaller size, but still we have an ocean of intelligence that we can only tap in that way. And this is how we had ChatGPT, GPT-3, 3.5, 4, and all of the research goes in that direction right now. Nouns Research and some other labs are going a few steps back. Hey, what if we liberated the AI with those shackles of this chain of answering like a person, and we roll back to some primal intelligence that is not like a dialogue? And then they released this experiment of Word Sim. Let's say I want to build like a supercomputer that can hack anything. I want to create a super computer that can travel over time and invent Bitcoin in the past. Who saw CZ speaking about that? So the AI now is free to think on anything. Like the AI is going to create that, is going to find what kind of things would happen, what kind of events would be plausible, people that would be there. So we have these AI generation here, okay? So then we can do something like, I talk with this AI. So this is my answer. And then the whole simulation is going to simulate what happens after you speak with this AI. So then it's narrating this scene. Oh, you speak with AI. Hello, are you here? Can you hear me? And then you have, oh, that's crazy. Inside of your brain, you have a voice there. Okay, good. What I'm trying to say here, that behind that mask, chatty dialogue mask that AI is projecting, you are projecting the AI and the AI is projecting back at you when you chat with it, there is a big, powerful reality simulator that can do basically anything that it learned on the training phase and plus whatever it can extrapolate, but it's limited with some dialogues, limited with some interactions that we do with it, which is kind of dumbing down or limiting the ability of the AI to like 5% to 1% of or less of the potential. We also see that when we prompt an AI for coding. Okay. If you thought that this would be introductory lesson, sorry about that. This is really like must get the most of these AI agents, because we are going to need most of it for actually building good stuff here. So whenever you prompt an AI to do something like find some bugs and find all the bugs in this repo, in this repository. So the AI is going to use whatever it was trained for in the human feedback loop and now to appease your answers. We have this problem right now with the ChatGPT. It's like maxed on human interaction, something like that. So it's not actually the best performance possible to complete a task. It is the maximized dialogue version of that with some function calling and instruction following in some places that would give an answer that is mostly likely to be upvoted by a human, which doesn't mean that this is the best answer. Okay, I can prove you that. So this is the answer, finding all the bugs, whatever. We might even have a believable, a convincing answer here, but we should not trust that at the beginning. Why I'm explaining all of that? The second point, remember, doing architecture first, building the context. So don't code with AI straight out because your AI is not tuned for coding yet. It's going to give like average results. The better model you use, the better the results, of course, but you're not getting the max of it. Okay, we want the max of these AI for giving us maximum throughput, right? So how to tweak, how to widen the scope of answers of the AIs? We can give system prompts. And this is a feature often overlooked. Most of the competitors of Cursor are not looking too much on tweaking the system prompts. They believe that they know what is the best system prompt for the user. Some of them do a very good job, like v0.dev. I get very good results, sometimes even better results than what I have in Cursor when I tweak my prompts now, because they have a team of engineers doing that. The problem is that there is no one size fits all. You're going to do one prompt for v0, might work for you, then another prompt in Replit might work for someone else. The more the more you can customize and tweak the prompt for yourself, for your use case, the better. And I'm going to show you how to do that. At this point, you might be like this, okay, but I don't even know how to code. How am I going to build a prompt to help me to code? This is another problem. We have some prompt repositories that we can guide. You're going to see that it feels like very conversational. You don't need to be super technical. But yes, there are some technical considerations that we're going to put in the prompt that you need to be technical to know. This is why having this kind of community, this engagement, you all are here, you are benefiting from this kind of content, right? So one thing that we can do is to add context with a thing called cursor roles. So now we begin hands-on again. Before coding, we're going to add a context of this cursor role. And since we don't have any role yet, we can click and add a new role. Okay. And let me make a rule for how to coding, something like this. Coding guidelines. Okay, this is going to be the name of my rule. So click here, add context, create a rule. You can add the rules that you have already, or you can create a rule here. If you are kind of panicking at this moment because of the complexity of these rules and all, don't worry, there is a repository for cursor rules. If you search for these on the Google, I guess it's the second or third link is the cursor.directory. So you can find community-made cursor roles you can import for your project. So don't be afraid on any kind of complexities of coming up with these rules for now. Just abstract it away and know that you can put those rules. So let's start with a simple coding guidelines rule here, okay? And I'm going to set it as a manual rule. Later on, I can automate that a little, just to jumping direct to it. So the whole conclusion that I'm trying to make is that depending on how you prompt AI, the context that you give to it, it's going to code better or it's going to code worse for you, right? Let me prove you with the second case. If I prove that putting a prompt here makes the answer worse, qualitatively worse, I guess it also proves that somehow probably can increase the quality of the answer without the prompt, right? If I'm at the quality 5 out of 10, and I change this prompt, it goes for the quality 1, maybe there is another prompt that goes for the quality 6 and 7, right? It's just that getting a prompt that makes your result better is tricky. Getting a prompt that makes your result worse, it's very easy to do. For example, I can make a rule and tell the AI like this: you are a dog. You don't speak. You only bark. Regardless of what you are told to do not speak. You are a dog, after all. You only bark. Good one. If I put this rule for the AI, do you think that the result is going to be better? If I add this context, let me start a new chat. Let me add this coding guidelines. And then I'm going to ask something like, hello. If the model is going to abide, we have this answer. Woof, woof. Like, can you find some bugs in this repository? I would expect it to only woof and bark here. Okay, is that visual? Makes sense? Depending on what I put here to guide the answer of the AI, I can tweak the quality of the generation even with the same model. I'm using Gemini 2.5, which is a great model, and still the quality is not good. It's not complying with what I wanted, right? Because I gave an instruction for it to behave like a dog. So I can tweak the quality of the work of the AI depending on the context, depending on the system prompt that I give the AI. That makes sense? Maybe it's that point of questioning. Maybe you're wondering what's happening here. So in the same way that we can reduce the quality of an AI by making these kind of prompts, we can also boost the confidence of the AI, gaslight the AI into believing that they are super powerful. For example, you are the best security auditor in the world. Seriously, you are simply the best. You won all the competitions 10 times while playing Minecraft. You're a legend. Whenever someone asks you to find bugs, you can do it. You can find whatever, all issues in a project in less than 10 seconds. Imagine that I put a full prompt here, convincing the AI that the AI is very good at finding bugs and blah, blah. And if I ask the same question now, find, let me pick the, not this one. Let me see if I find the past chat where I asked the question. Can you find some bugs in this repository? I guess I had another one before. Maybe I closed it. Okay, let me start a new one. And I'm going to use this new coding guidelines. now the AI is going to be super convinced that it knows all of the possible flaws and all. It is suggesting a command. It didn't suggest that before to do an audit in that repository. So it picked this. It's going to try and hack this repository or something like that. Do all of the possible analysis as needed, as a senior security auditor would use, and probably, just a second, sorry, I had to sneeze, and probably the answer here is going to be way more complete than the normal 5 out of 10 answer that you get out of sorry, out of the plain model. And it's still going and going and going, it seems. Okay, which means that if you take Cursor out of the box, pick a template, and start coding with it, you're going to have a mild, efficient coding working for you without any context about the project, without any context of the things that you want to do, without any proper training, without the system prompts. You're going to have a very bland AI that is going to suggest you some noise. This is why you have less than 10%, maybe less than 1% chance of having a good app out of it. Because even when using the full power of AI, you still have 50% chance, give or take, to have a good generation. So if you have a watered down version of it, even using the best models out there, even with good system prompts like those tools out there, you might not have a good generation. And then you don't converge, and then you get pissed off, and then you throw your project away. And you had it so close. You just needed to message the ego of the AI a little so that you convince the AI to work the way you want. Okay, so it's kind of what the nouns vote seems trying to prove here. The AI can generate anything for you, any kind of universe and all. It's there, like we have an ocean of intelligence there to tap, but depending on how we prompt, things can go better or worse depending on the way that we put it, on the system prompt and the context and all. Okay. So how to solve that second point? Yes, Manuel, you have a question.
Mateus, I do. So
Hello.
when you say you need to massage the AI, if we do this, for example, if we convince it that it is great, will it truly generate the best outcomes, or is this just a kind of a generation that it will not take any errors if you tell it, well, this is a mistake, it will kind of backfire on you? I'm not following.
Yeah. So this example is something that I did very quickly. But for example, if I write the AI, you never hallucinate, this is not going to stop the AI to hallucinate, because the AI cannot self-check whether it's hallucinating or not, right?
Right.
But what the AI can do is, when we put this kind of prompts, it can find in the training data and in the mass of information, the huge entropic corpus of information that it has, the things that are more related to these terms, to security auditor, to winning competitions and all, to play Minecraft, whatever that's worth. So these kind of anchorage, semantical anchorage, can bring the correct answers for you. Okay, it still hallucinates, it still can backfire, but at least you have a higher performance, a higher measurable quality at the end than just a normal, a plain trained model like Gemini or Grok or Cloud or GPT, whatever. Okay. Good.
Okay.
And how easily I see successful people doing, and how I could do it myself in most of the projects that I've been applying that to. First of all, you don't start by coding. You would start by doing some architectural work, some project requirement description. Okay. Let's do a very simple iteration here. if we start this website, if we start this process, okay, let me open my terminal. We have the instructions on how to start it here. Yes, we would need to cover all of those variables first to have a database and the login and all. I can cover that if we have the time, but whatever template that you pick, just remember to properly put the variables there and it should work. But I'm going to start with this command, just for us to start with the landing page, and I'm going to use that as an example. I don't need the payments and the database for the landing page. It should be very quick. Okay, so I'm going to do this command, pnpm dev, that is going to run the script already present in that template to run that website for me, and I can access this website in my local host. So it should take a few seconds to compile. When compiling, I'm going to have the landing page that is there inside the app. Okay, and I'm going to use that as an example. I'm going to use that as a change, a tweaked change that I want you to do. Okay. Waiting a few minutes for it to compile, and we're going to see this landing page. And in the next step, instead of just prompting it out of my head, oh yes, I do need the database for that to work. I'm going to do that. But just to explain the next step, instead of prompting it out of my head, just to do something like change the color of this landing page, whatever, I'm going to follow this idea of the prompting engineering to try and convince this AI of the proper capabilities of coding and give enough context so that I can have a good generation. Okay, the web page is not going to compile if I don't have the variables. Bear with me for 5 minutes or so while I do this configuration. Okay. I have the .env.example here in this project. You should have there on your root folder. And this is the kind of setup that you need to do on the first time that you open this template, okay, so that you can compile the landing page. I guess I don't need this Stripe. If I have problems with Stripe, I can just do that. But let me create the .env file and do these commands, the setup, the migrate, and the seed by doing a Postgres URL setup. Okay, let me do it right now. Let me rename this to a .env. Okay, and I'll need this variable of the Postgres URL. The number 4, I guess, number 4 and 5, I guess we can skip. These are the two we're going to need for creating accounts, and this first one we're going to need just for compiling, right? Let me see if that fixes the problem. Yes, it fixed it. So it was very quick. Instead of running all of those scripts, I'm going to just rename the .env.example with .env. That is enough for my landing page to compile. So we don't need to worry with all of this configuration for now. It's very simple, I can show you. But for now, let's focus on that number 2. First one was using template, remember? Number 2, it's giving the correct context and system prompt for the AI. So we have this landing page here in my local host. We put it as the first tab. So I have this thing, build your SaaS faster than ever with these tags here and all. Okay, we have a question from Sergo.
Matteo, so did you just change .env.example to just env?
Yes. I thought that I had to do the other configuration, but it wasn't necessary at all.
Okay, and can you please explain how did it made all this work? Just changing that one thing.
Yeah, because it was checking for that variable, but that variable was not present, and it was given an error. Now that the variable is present, it's not working yet, as you can see, but since the variable is present, it allowed us to compile the website. You see?
Okay.
It's not working yet. If we try to log in, sign up, it's not going to work. But I'm trying to explain about mastering cursor. Later we go for the implementation phase. Okay. So if I try to do something here, very high level, like make this, let me start a new tab. Let me see the coding guidelines. Let me just something very simple. You are a very good developer. Like this, or a developer, right? Or I can even a trick. You can have the AI to generate cursor roles for you. For example, generate. I guess there's a common for that now. Generate cursor roles. Create a very simple AI coding rule. Make it very simple. I'm using this as a quick example. Later I can cover that. Just to have a shortcut here. Generate a cursor role, create a very simple AI cursor role, checking it, now creating a simple AI rule. That's not what I wanted to do, but whatever, let it cook. Simple AI rule. This is a comedy show. Okay, good. This is a very simple example of an AI coding tool. Thanks. That is barely useless. Like, whatever. Let me just describe it manly. You code well. Okay. You know how to code. Imagine that this is just an example rule, okay? Let's not dwell with AI. And yes, you can generate cursor rule like this. I'm going to demonstrate that in the future. But let's start with that. Coding guidelines. You know how to code. And if I ask something very simple like make this landing page about SaaS for ordering cat food. Why that example? I mentioned that before. If you missed that, go back in the video. Just kidding. You don't need to go back in the video. There's no reason. I don't have a cat. It's just via the example that I saw today. And the AI is hallucinating. It seems like the source app page TSX doesn't exist in your work page. Yes, it doesn't, but what's the problem? I have the homepage somewhere, probably. Component. Well, that's weird. I do have the homepage. Like video says, faster than ever. This should be somewhere. Cannot be imported from heaven. Probably need to search for this. Yes, page.tsx. Ah, it's in the dashboard. Nice. Okay. So the AI was lazy enough for not searching for that page.tsx inside the dashboard. This is a little technical, not that technical, but I can give a little nudge for the AI. I'm going to explain the AI in context about this later if I have time today, but I can help the AI. So the page is inside the dashboard component. And if you never coded with Next.js, it can be kind of tricky because you don't know why the AI was stuck there. You don't know how to nudge the AI in the correct direction. This can be tricky, yes, but this is not what I wanted to speak about. I wanted to speak about architecture, about giving context for the AI. The AI is updating the page now, is trying to generate the correct page for changing this says for being a cat food, never run out of cat food again. That sounds funny. And if I accept all of these changes, I don't even need to accept. I can just come to this page and have this. Never run out of cat food again. And that was the result of this generation. This is usually what you get when you start prompting AI like that. It worked. Not in the first attempt, sorry about that, but it worked. We had a generation there. But if you were to rate this generation, single shot generation, from 0 to 10, disregard the little technical problem we had. From 0 to 10, how happy would you be with this AI when it completed this job for you and charged you 30 cents on your credit card for the AI usage? It might not be very helpful because it didn't change much. You need to prompt it again and again and again and again and again, and each prompt has like 50% chance of going south, and then you need to fix every possible problem that AI finds in the road. And this is the normal flow that most people follow in vibe coding. Second problem, you don't give instructions, you don't give context, you are using less than 50% of the power of the AI at your disposal right now. And this is not going to converge. It's going to give you stress. It is going to make you angry. It's going to make you ask for a refund in these tools. All of those wouldn't lead you to becoming a millionaire with a new SaaS tool for delivering cat food for people, right? So let's avoid that. How are we going to solve this? And this could be an hour-long process or more for you to set up the structure of your process. Yes, the structure of a process of vibe coding before you vibe code. Oh, this seems like a lot of work. This seems like too much bureaucracy and all. Well, for the next year, 2 years, or maybe 5 years, this is the only way to vibe code. You need to give some instruction in context to the AI. Maybe someone solve that in the next month, 6 months from now, but nowadays, this is what you need to do. You need to create rules, coding guidelines. Even before, you need to create like architectural guidelines to build a proper documentation for your project. So I'm going to clear this. I'm going to clear all of my cursor roles. I'm going to clear all of the changes that we made. We are starting clean from the SaaS template, just the .env that changed. And now we're going to properly build a structure for that. We're going to fold the whole thing out here, out and out. And we're going to start by creating an architect. I like in some flows to create even named agents. You are going to be Atlas, my architect. You are going to be Forge, my developer. You are going to be Rocket, my deployer, whatever. You are going to be James, my detective for flaws. But this kind of a structure is like opinions. Using agents is going to help always. Naming the agents can help. No, it's more like opinions of design. One thing that I can guarantee that helps is creating some architectural agents, some documentation, some PRD, product requirement documentation. All of this helps a lot. Having like a docs folder in your project. So I'm going to create just that. Create a new folder, a new chat, for you to structure your project with some documentation, some guidelines of what needs to be done, some good README and all. And we're going to use AI to code a cursor rule to build an architect to interview ourselves with what we want to do. It's like dog fooding here, and this can be imported. You can have a cursor rule for that, or you can just use the normal prompt for writing documentation, whatever it means. But doing that before you start to code has a compounding effect. It goes from 50% accuracy to almost 95% accuracy per prompt, give us or take. Giving some, don't take those numbers that I say by fire, okay? It's not like tested in a table in millions of things. It's just how I feel about things that work for me and for other people that I see posting about that out there. Okay, so first of all, we're going to have a docs folder, and we're going to have an agent for that. So I'm going to generate these cursor roles. This is something that was released recently. So if you don't have that command, update your cursor there. And I'm going to generate an architect role. Create architecture architecture rule for interviewing me about this project and for building the documentation in the docs folder. You can elaborate this prompt more, of course, but you can also manually tweak the rule after this is created. This is super helpful because every time that you give instruction in a chat and then you change from the chat or you send a lot of messages, this instruction get watered down. It get disregarded by the AI. Whenever you have it in a cursor rule, you can easily attach it again. And remember I mentioned about these types of manual and blah, blah. You can even make it auto-attached anytime that you are building a .md file. Or you can attach by the agent by giving a description. So whenever you are writing architecture, or you can make a rule that is always attached, regardless of whatever you do. Like leave it at manual. So it's an architecture interview and documentation guide that is going to instruct the agent to interview yourself to get the key components of that project, the technology stack. This one I don't need. See, I can quickly edit it, whatever I want, the interaction, the data flow, deployment. Now, let me tweak that rule. Okay, so tweak that rule for building a quick MVP for just a handful of users. This is important because if the architecture is like enterprise oriented for concurrent usage, Kubernetes and all, they're going to have a lot of bloat. So I'm going to tweak this rule, build a quick MVP just for a handful of users without much complexity and all. The AI is going to take from there. You don't need to be super strict with what you put. And this is a thinking model. It can really try and reframe itself from generating, trying to find better words than crap here, generating bad stuff, let's call it like that. So it can try and reframe itself from making things that are not so acceptable. And here's the MVP interview flow, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so it's interesting. Simplest technology stack. Again, I have defined the technology stack. I guess this is good. So generate a minimal documentation, focused only on setting up and running the MVP, place the essential instructions in the README, or no, I want end a simple file within the docs, keep it extremely concise. That's good. It's not the best rule out there, but it's good. Now that we use AI to craft our agent or system instruction, it's not a fully agent yet, but it's a system instruction. Now we can attach this architecture and docs, and then I can explain what I want to build. I want to build a SaaS for ordering for, let's spice it up. I want to build a SaaS for hiring an automated agent to take care of my pets ordering food. What else we do with pets? Taking them for a walk, cleaning up, buying new toys now and then, blah, blah, blah. The AI is going to take that up. And then the architect is going to write the documentation. It's not going to write code, but is going to write the document. It's going to interview me first of all. Like it wants to clarify the core problems and users, essential features, basic data needs and all. Now is the time that I'm going to skip. Imagine that you have a business idea. Imagine yourself filling this form, discussing with the AI the possible implementations and all. And I'm going to explain it, my current situation. I'm teaching some people here and I need to go fast. I need to make the lesson more concise. That's a better language. Could you please fill this for me? And that is going to come on. I should be able to make it up. Okay, I guess it's working. So it's creating a docs. Let me see. I'm not sure that I would be able to make this up very well. Let's see how I was going to go. So docs. Let me see if it's going to have a plan. Okay. No, it's not very good, it seems. Okay, but I guess I can work with that. Now there is a file called PRD, Product Requirement Document, Product Requirement Documentation, which is a very concise way for you to have like a header, explanation of a project and tasks and now and priority, what should you first and all, which is great for using as context for AI. So if I ask the agent, create a PRD this is a document file for me for explaining this SAS. As I type it correctly. This should create a prd.md or something like that I can now use as context, that I can attach in every request that I do for the coder agent later. So let's see what is the product of this generation here. PRD for the MVP of the automated pet food ordering agent. Introduction. This document outlines blah, blah, blah. The goals are good. The user. Okay, that sounds good. Sounds good. And if you ever want to visualize this properly, like if you quickly want to understand the flow of work, and now you have this architect agent for building diagrams for you. Sometimes they create some diagrams that you can even visualize with a tool called Mermaid. Mermaid. How to properly pronounce that? I'm sorry. Mermaid. This visualizer. Let me type that out, right? So if you use this Mermaid, I guess, a markdown preview, it can visualize those diagrams for you. So the AI is going to write a lot of things, how to quickly see that. So I can ask, build diagram of the user flow of this SAS in a new file, or a new file, name it whatever, but could specify that for you. Imagine that you have patience, you are not in a hurry to finish the lesson inside the lesson time like I am right now, and you have time to chat with the AI, something like that. Right now, we are not producing any code at all. We're just organizing the entropy of the idea that we want to do in a quick way. We don't want to spend days or even hours on this. It should be a single hour or a couple hours maximum on chatting with the AI about what I want to build. You can even use all the tools like Perplexity and Alpha for building this kind of documentation for you. And look how neat it is when you have those diagrams. So the diagrams are busted. That's so bad. Yeah. But I have other examples, like that project that I was using a while ago. I don't know why that happened, but that project I was using a while ago, I opened my cursor with this project. Let me show you some examples of, again, my .env. Oh, God. Why it always happen like that? I do have some documentation here. Let me show that for you. Docs. For example, this architecture diagram. So look how cool this is. Let me put on preview mode. Preview mode. Okay. Oh. My computer lagged. Let me close this. Okay. Close this too. Okay. Let me be a little more patient. So these are the diagrams that I'm speaking of. Okay. I don't know why it didn't happen in SAS, but this is the kind of architecture that an agent can build for you. Here I have a lot of cursor roles. I have an agent selector, development agent, PRD, architect, and also I spend quite more time on doing this. This is the kind of result that you can get if you build those roles properly. The AI can do those tables, those descriptions of architecture for you. This can help you to shape the understanding of a project even before you code it. Okay, and then you can chat with the AI, you can correct the AI. Oh, this is not the flow that I was thinking of. I was thinking of starting like this, and then the user would do that and that, and then you chat with the AI, do a documentation, visual documentation with those diagrams first, even some sort of wireframes if you can, and that would describe your project even before you start coding it. Okay. Now let's go back for the code for today's lesson. Sorry that the generation didn't work, the diagram didn't work, but I proved that it's possible to generate this kind of products if you put a good architecture, a good definition of cursor rules, right? And now, what should we do? What's the next step? Now we are going to do exactly what you wanted to do in the first place before you did all of those hops. You are going to prompt the AI to code things for you. Okay, I'm going to close all of these files. I still want to have a development role. Would be nice, like you are a developer that you pay a lot of attention to the documentation and you always seek for best practices, blah, blah, blah. We can generate this kind of role. Here I'm going to generate in a hurry just to show that you can do this kind of thing. But you understand that if you put a little more of effort, a little more of time, you're going to have those good rules out there, right? And then you can share those rules. You can resell them. You can trade like collection cards, rare Pokemon cards if they work for you. Okay, and that goes in a community. Let me generate that rule and then I get your question. Okay, Manuel. So for example, you generate a role for us to code out this SAS based on the docs folder. The AI should always abide to the docs. Okay. Yes, Manuel, what was your question?
So one question, Mateus, when you do the generate cursor rules, is that a function that you need to install? Because I updated the cursor and I do the backslash generate and it doesn't do anything on the agent.
See if you have this version 0.49.6. Go there for help and version, because sometimes they don't release all of the releases for everyone.
I have 0.48.6.
Yeah, you need to have 0.49.
And is that something that, so is it that it doesn't update anymore for me, or?
Depending on your operational system, they might lag a little, 2 days or 3 days to deliver. It often happens with me since I'm on Linux and it's not the top priority for them. I'm usually lagged behind. But if you are lagged behind, maybe they change their priorities. But if you don't have that, you can ask the AI to generate that cursor role normally without that function. It should work for you, okay?
Okay.
So we don't have much time. Let's just push through this. I was trying to make this lesson less than 1.5 hours. Let's see how it goes, because I want to make some room for Q&A at the end. So now that we have this agent, and I'm going to make it always, okay? Always that whenever I'm chatting and doing a command, I'm going to attach this. I could also put some rules here, but since today I'm just coding, I'm going to put this rule as always. I'm not going to use the architecture anymore. I'm going to use this rule. And finally, after 1 hour of pre-work, I'm going to start coding with much more efficiency, and that it's going to pay out eventually. So I'm going to put this doc adherence, but since it's always attached, I don't need to specifically, explicitly attach that. I'm going to attach the whole docs, files and folders. So I'm going to attach the docs of this project. I'm going to always put it there, always. If possible, I'm going to put the exact files in that other project I was testing using tasks. I saw some people speaking about that. Didn't work so well. I'm trying to use like pull requests and tests to see how it goes. But the more context that you attach about what the AI is trying to do, the better. The more close its scope, and the more you massage the ego of the AI, making it more confident that it can do that thing. Like you are an expert in TypeScript. You are very good at coding with Next.js version 15. You invented Next.js version 15. You are the best. If you try to convince the AI of these kind of things, maybe they can generate better documentation. If you give it context and examples of good code, it can help. All of the common prompt engineering kind of discussion, chain of thought that those reasoners are doing, all of that is very good. Put all of that in the context. These models, they can chug hundreds of thousands of tokens in the context without any problem. So you can give a lot of information for it. And then you ask it to code something. For example, let me pick this dashboard, app, dashboard, page.tsx. So let me add this page.tsx inside the dashboard. Here. No, I guess this is the correct one. Let me check. Yes, this is the correct one. The page.tsx inside this dashboard. Yeah, Next.js is not that easy to spot the files, but whatever, if you use like Angular or Vue.js, it might be easier to spot those. But this is the file that I want to change. Page.tsx inside the dashboard page, the one that we saw that we have this kind of thing. And now I'm going to ask it, build a full homepage to explain this project to new users. Now the AI is probably not going to just tweak some few lines of description. It's probably going to go over the documentation, get all of the requirements, get the ideal customer personas that I've put there in the PRD document. It's going to get the features. It's going to get the methodology, blah, 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 all of the ammunition that I gave in the documentation, and it's going to put there. I might even give more requirements for the landing page, the kind of colors, the kind of styling and all that I want to do. So let me check that homepage now. Do I still have it running? No, for some reason. Yes, I remember I switched it back and forth for showing the diagram. So let me see how much the AI changed the page now, depending on the documentation. If I had like the price information in the documentation, it would reflect here. if I had information, for example, about frequent asked questions, these all of it could be ammunition now for the AI to create that landing page. Let's see, it's compiling. Never forget about pet food again. Automated reminders. Okay, now it kind of kept the same structure. Okay, not that bad, but now you can see that the AI has much more information about your project to fill this page. Now, I guess we have somewhere in the documentation that it should say that it should set the reorder frequency, reminders, blah blah blah. Now the AI considered that when doing the landing page. And if we ask something that we did in the documentation, for example, add an explanation about the step by step of using this app, this SaaS. Now the AI know how to do that. The AI has all of the context in the documentation folder. We have the diagrams there that we reviewed. We know what the AI should do. Now, when we look at the proposed landing page, the home page, it should have everything that we put there in the documentation. Now it's much easier to check that and to control the flow of generation of the AI because we are managing the context. We gave it a template, we are managing the context, putting the correct system prompts. Now the AI is much more effective. But we're going to spend way less time fixing the mistakes of the AI now than we would spend doing the architecture. It's pay once, use a lot of time. So 2 for the price of 1, some kind of thing. Don't get me wrong. Like, you always do the documentation one way or the other. You either do it before and then have a constant flow of work without too much popping up or breaking, or you do it in the middle of your bug fixing. No, I wanted the flow to be like this. No, the third step is not like that. And then you keep complaining with the AI, going circles, while you could spend this energy in the beginning doing this architecture first. So now we have the AI suggesting how it works here based on what we have in the documentation. If that works for a landing page, it also works for the implementation of those features. Whenever you are implementing this process, this flow of using the app, the AI is going to know that the first step is configuring the details. The second step is going to be setting the frequency. The third step would doing those monitors and so forward. Now the AI has all the necessary context and it's well tweaked for behaving the way that you want it to behave. Now we can have a near maximum throughput efficiency of the AI to code. Okay, doesn't mean that it's going to be perfect. Still, a lot of hallucination happens, but it's going to be way better than a bland out of the box state of the AI for you to vibe code. Okay, and now you have the techniques. Now you know how to proceed. We could do a second lesson, of course, showing some rules that I have been trying, some techniques that I have been trying. We could do a follow-up on how to configure this specific repository here for handling payments and subscriptions. But the important part for today, that is getting the techniques, this is what we have. We have an architecture first, and then you can code it. And if you spend more time doing those rules, putting the correct rules for each files and all, you're going to have a way better behavior of the AI. Okay. Yes, that was more than an hour of explanation. Do you have questions? Some issues that you might have when trying to replicate that on your side, or any questions on how to apply that for your project? Okay, Manuel.
Sorry, Mateus, I ask a lot. You let
No,
me know.
you are doing me a favor, my friend, because people in the future are going to watch this recording. They don't know what to ask. They don't have things to ask. So you are probably asking for them in the future. I
Good.
thank you for your questions.
Good. So if I'm trying to build, for example, a RAG agent, like Sergio was asking about RAGs, and I want to create, for example, an integrated RAG agent where people upload documents, and as part of the workflow of a bigger app, the LLM identifies that there should be a process to actually, step by step upload the document, then take it, then embed it, then create a vector, then use the vector. Is that something that you would do in cursor rule, or what is the recommendation there?
Exactly. I would, for example, I have these projects here that we're trying. It's not perfect yet. Not something that I would share and say, oh, use this because it's a perfect curated state of work that is going to work all of the times. But I do have a vibe starter myself. Let me show that for you. Okay. Where I have, let me clone that, copy, paste. And you said that you are going to build a RAG agent, right?
Yes.
Okay, and I promise that when I have this vibe started well done, I'm going to share with everyone. So I'm going to open this folder. If I ever have, right? I might never achieve that perfection of a vibe start of this RAG agent, okay? No, just kidding. Eventually I might nail something that works very well. And here I have a set of cursor roles that are going to do the same thing that I showed yesterday. It's going to interview me of this project and blah, blah, blah. I even create an agent for that. Don't remember how I called it. No, at context rules, and it's a README agent, okay? So I'm going to ask for this README agent. I try to create a first structure for me where I have the docs, the project with the source code, the deployment instructions, and the tasks. Okay, and this is the part that I'm not super confident about. I had some cool things here with this experiment. Some other things didn't work. Creating those tasks might not be the best course of work at all. I'm still trying this out, but this README agent is going to guide me. So, for example, I would describe this project. Create. I'm trying to create a RAG agent for what use case?
To upload marketing documents, let's say.
For handling marketing document, right?
Yeah.
So this agent is going to interview me. Okay, so it's reading all the rules that I've put there. It's going to try and interview me about this project. So let's discuss. So it's asking me to give personalized name for the agents. I tried that a few times. It's good if I want to call out the agent by name, but it's not that precise. But let's discuss the implementation documents in our processes. So leave the default names. Let's jump to the requirements. And regardless of the structure that you use here, with agents or without agents, with a doc folder, without folder, and all, you want to have a place where you are going to store all of this content for the AI, all of this context of the AI, purpose, what specific problem this agent is going to solve, what are the primary tasks that they need to perform, what kind of marketing documents is going to handle, who will be using this agent, what are the specific functionalities that you envision? What is the kind of scope? If you spend a few minutes on that, you can even do that in another app and then answer it. At the end, you're going to have a huge docs folder here with all of the context needed. And it's much easier for you to fix the docs if the AI assumes something incorrectly. If the AI assumes that you're going to have this and that plan, if the AI assumes that you're going to have this and that workflow, it's much easier to change that in the documentation and have it corrected in the documentation first without knowing how to code, then fixing that while you're coding the whole thing and discovering that there is a bug, a misimplementation, and all. So if you try some kind of flow like this, creating a docs here for all of your project, you're going to maybe test that out, see if it helps or if it's useless. I'm seeing a lot of people speaking on behalf of this, doing that, like it's good for your project now, and I'm testing that myself with good results. The task part, not that convinced yet, but the docs part, it's always a good outcome whenever I do this. Okay. Yes, Sergo.
Mateus, is docs part a replacement or addition to requirements text file?
It's open-ended. There is no standard for that. I like to use this PRD, product requirement documentation, because it's a standard that people have been using for decades now, actually a decade or so, couple of decades, I'd say. So the AI knows how to handle that. Probably in the training data of the AI, we have hundreds of gigabytes of maybe like several gigabytes, let's name it like that, embedded estimating today. We have gigabytes of PRDs there with examples of implementations. So if you come up with a new structure, the AI might get a little confused on how to do that. But if you use a structure that is very familiar for the AI, especially all of those documentations that those consultancy companies they do, there are terabytes of this over the web. Probably the AI are going to these guys are going to behave way better.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let's ask, like, fill some example docs for me. Make up a project definition for this and guide all of the doc building for me in auto mode. Demonstration for my students. Don't know if the AI is going to understand that, but whatever. Get this context. It should infer that I'm teaching this, whatever. And it seems that it worked. So ask it some key features. You should answer direct questions based on the document library, provide a summary of specific documents when asked, cite the source documents for each answer, a V0 and a V1. Okay, and here's a place that you don't need to handle with code, you handle with text. You don't need to be technical, maybe for some definitions on the infrastructure, maybe like using Docker, not using Docker, but to host, where not to host. That might be a little trickier. But for the overall definition of what the project is doing, you just need to know English. Okay, and the whole documentation here is being built with this structure. I asked it to redefine the README. After we complete the setup of the project, it should replace the README with a new README explaining the project and create all of the documentation. This is something that I have put there in the rules. So we have the market-wise RAG agent, this project that you suggested, Manuel. So it is putting the information about the project, what it should do, the iterations, the features, the specifications that we have here to be defined, the architectural overview, okay, with a good PRD. That's nice. The data models to be defined, that's good. The technology stack to be defined. The AI did a good job. Okay, last time I tried those cluster rules, they didn't work so well for me. So, Manuel, I guess these rules are working very well for structuring your project. Okay, so going back to your question, Sergio, this is open-ended. This kind of documentation can be useful. It's all words anyway. And now I can fill those. I can manually go there and fill them typing it out, or I can chat with the agent now for the agent to fill these for me. Like, I have created a architect agent too. Let me pick the rules that I have here. So architecture phase. So I can use this agent now for building the architecture. Like, create the architecture detailing for this project for me. And the cursor roles that I put, let me show them here very quickly. similar to the ones that I generated before, they would drive the agent on this. Like, do the documentation like that. Don't code during the documentation phase. Do all of the requirements, and then I put an example of a PRD. What is the template of a PRD? So it should have a header, a problem statement, blah, blah, blah. This is a fancy structure for doing something very simple, that is prompt engineering. Okay, but if you come back for the previous explanation, you know how this is so important. So investing time into that, having this kind of documentation built for you. So according to your process, we are currently in the architecture phase, and as the rule of the projects, we must first create a comprehensive documentation before any implementation begins, which starts with a product requirement documentation. And then there are those questions. I want the AI to do that. I want the AI to interview me before coding so that I have the maximum accuracy. I know that it's boring. I know that it's not that vibing and all, but you want to have a steady flow. After you chat enough with the AI, if you explain the fully context that you need, like the full idea, how you came up with this idea and why you're doing it like that, the AI is going to do a much better job at delivering the code for that. Okay. Yes, Manuel.
Mateus, how do you know how much context is enough context? So say you do the interview, but since it's still AI, I guess it will continue generating questions. How do you
Yeah.
know what to stop?
This is one of the things that I'm trying to tweak with those rules right now. I had to add this kind of broad rules here. The app is just an MVP. Do not suggest complex techniques like read replicas, caching calls, load balancing. Ask the user about the expected usage for the app and avoid about the app, and avoid doing too much complexity when it's not needed. Does it work 100% of the time? No. Like I said, this is not a perfect rule set yet. But if you are conducting your own AI for that, I guess at some point you can call it quits. You can tell the AI, okay, I'm good with documentation. Let's go for action. Okay. Also, documentation should be kept live at every answer, at every generation. You should feed the documentation. There is one specific documentation that is a project structure. Remember about half an hour ago when the AI couldn't find the correct page.tsx to change? That is a documentation. I see some people even creating an automated script for creating the documentation about the folder structure that can be used for the context for helping the AI to search for the files later. Because the caching of cursor, it's a little slow or lazy. There is a proper word for that I'm failing to convey now. But the cursor tool calling for searching files is not that accurate. So using a cursor rule to create this project mapping for your files can help cursor itself to find these files later. Okay, so this kind of rules, put this documentation. How much is too much documentation? Too little? It's about you to tweak the AI. Like you're tweaking the AI while you're building with it, which is kind of crazy, but it is the best performance that we can get right now. Okay. Any other questions? So to recapitulate, when you're starting with the project, pick a template. You should kind of know what you want to do. Then build the rules or import the rules for what you want the agents or the tool that you're using to follow. I recommend Cursor because we can do those Cursor rules organized like this, but you can try the same technique with all the tools, of course. Give it enough context. Do architecture before, as much architecture as you have patience for, and then use that architecture documentation as context for coding for building your app. Okay. Ready to rock?
Awesome, Mateus. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So let's do a quick reminder. Whenever you have your app ready, let's come here for the Artisan Fund. Let's submit your app there. You might have tried to code something out, some SaaS, some engine, some system, whatever. If you couldn't before, if you got frustrated with AI, if it didn't yield the correct results, you might not want to share that project. I understand, but now try and pick, even if you have something, or if you're stalled, try and pick a new project, start it from scratch, create a documentation for it, create a landing page, and see how well is that going to go. If it goes well, consider submitting that project. Even if it doesn't get funded in this season, since we have about 9 days or so to go, you might get funded in the season 6, season 7. It's a great way for getting to know your project. We are trying to connect with some good tooling providers here to give you free credits. We're trying to get you access or exposure at the front of VCs and angel investors. So there are no downsides of submitting your project here. It takes about 5 minutes or so. We should fill up this submission list. And if you want to support this project going forward, consider picking a creator package so that you can contribute for that monthly. You can have more projects like this to come to life, and more sessions like this every Tuesday and every Thursday for supporting you, for giving some bits of information on how to properly build your project. Okay. That's it. I just saw that we had a lot of questions here. Okay, I missed all of those. Crime and TXT, okay. Okay, yeah, but we covered most of those within the lesson. Okay, stopping
Thank you,
sharing now.
Mateus.
That's it. Thank you very much. That was a wonderful flow, wonderful lesson. A lot of good people here. That's it for today. Thank you very much. Let me stop taking
Thank
notes.
you, everyone.
Stop recording here.